Good morning, my friends. Daniel Miller here. How's everybody doing here in the UK and worldwide? We are having a drizzly, wet, somewhat nippy morning today compared to the last week, and it's been really appreciated because it refreshed that very dreadful humid air that was plaguing us the whole week. So we can really wake up nicely refreshed. And I have to say, last night I slept like a log, slightly overslept again. And anytime you have a bit of rain and this sort of wonderful fresh air creeping in, I sort of sleep really heavy, and I'm usually up before 8. And as you've heard, yesterday I even woke up at 6, but today it was somewhere around 9 o'clock, and that was very late for me because usually I spend 2 hours reading the news and doing other things, in preparation for all that is to follow at 10 o'clock. So my activities have been somewhat abbreviated, but I did manage to get through everything, and that was really all good, but slightly rushed compared to the usual. I prefer it leisurely, when you wake up, have a cup of tea, have your breakfast, read your newspapers and that sort of thing. But obviously having 2 hours to go through all the news is really just about enough, because I get the news for my film and gaming dialogue hubs. So I have to go through Twitter feeds and RSS feeds and various other hubs, and depends on the day. I think as far as the industry is concerned, the weekend is quieter compared to the week, but still I get lots of information from our community members and associates, other broadcasters and streamers. I recap on my own gaming activity and so on. So we have here Orlando Perez. Hello Orlando, we've been chatting here on Twitch about various things, inclusive of Orlando's gaming, the current gaming, and I believe that is to do with Destiny 2, the sequel. Orlando's been telling us a few things. For everyone who perhaps is not reading the chat, Orlando is already 10-15 light level and said that the lengthy grinds in Destiny 2, the recent ones, have been somewhat annoying. Also, Orlando said that he is still not needing to go through the Shadowkeep. He can just carry on with the seasonal content. And I brought to his attention that Bungie had changed their business model, so we have no need to be purchasing a lot of that new content, and we can just carry on playing the base game in order to progress up. And that's actually quite interesting, but for myself it also feels a bit fractured. I personally prefer the games that have a very strong RPG content, where things are being tied in, where you can really follow the story, and then you have the activities complementing it. I talked about this recently quite a bit and compared it to, for instance, the very best of musicals, the film musicals in the 1930s. Because the best of musicals will have those two entities, i.e. the choreographed musical sequences with songs and the story blending in perfectly together. So the musical sequences were actually complementing the story. The story was in the 30s about the 1930s depression, the economic depression, lots of unemployment and hardship that was being felt by everyone worldwide. And then the songs represent this. So if you were to be looking at films like Gold Diggers from 1933, I think it's probably the most appropriate example. If you listen to the lyrics, they just are a bit like the dialogue that's written for the film, and what they do, the way they dance, and the sequences, they just literally are illustrating all that's happening to the lead characters. Well, that is what I like the best in musicals and also in video games. So it is one of those things, and Bungie really as a company is always full of experiments, and they've been providing us with lots of innovations. And what I like about Bungie compared to some of the other developers is that they always listen to the community, and they are very receptive. And certainly since they divorced from Activision, the publisher that was obviously working together with them for a number of years on Destiny and other projects, they become really very responsive to the community requests. So for instance, if you have a number of things in a season that are seen as perhaps negative or not embraced, Bungie are immediately applying changes. Well, as you know, you can't really please everyone, and some people will prefer lengthy grinds and the quests where you're getting emblems and some weapons. Others will find that a bit too tedious if it's not tied to the story, and therefore the approaches are changing as we go along. So one of the things happening in September, in addition to Destiny 1 integration, the full integration into the Destiny Saga, Destiny Universe as we call it, It's going to be Destiny Content Vault, DCV as they called it. And that is very much a concern because it means that some of the content will be disappearing, and it will disappearing either for good or for a long while. So the question arises, when and how are we going to be able to access this content to the vault, if at all? Is there going to be another server, another hub through which such activities will be accessible? Because ultimately, if you are doing the game replay, you always want to go through the motion of experiencing it in full. They explain that in terms of the actual space required for the new content to come in on the servers, as well as the space needed for updates, and the space that's occupied by a particular game on your console, because these games are like 150 gigs, and with the updates will require at least 120, which means you will need to have at least a quarter of your 1 terabyte hard drive fully liberated, or you will need to be buying a very large external hard drive that's going to be used for installations. Well, I'm in two minds about this. I mean, I certainly appreciate new content, but I don't really know whether the shelved content will be to my satisfaction. Sometimes you come across some patrols and some pedestrian mundane activities that you do not particularly want to do or you don't enjoy, but shelving story missions is not acceptable, and I think the initial stage where 4 planets will disappear from the universe in order to deliver the new content will be definitely of great concern, because don't forget, you will have some strikes and the Crucible also attached to the planets with some of the maps, and that is not going to be well received, I don't think. But we need to see. Let me see what our friend is asking. Orlando is saying, want to do a Crota run. Well, I can't really do anything which is outside of the actual list, the list of missions. So yesterday we progressed down the Taken King route, and we were doing so little while because nobody was participating in that strike but myself, and I was doing it on the hard difficulty level. So it did take a little while, but eventually we completed, and we had actually a person joining us towards the end, and that really helped. So I'll tell you exactly where we are at presently. So we had completed all of these chapters. Act 1, Nothing Left But the Fall. Act 2, Against the Hive. Act 3, Fruit of the Garden. Then we had Interlude 1 on Mars, The Bringer of War. We had Act 4, Predator's Revenge. Act 5, The Dark Below. Act 6, House of Wolves. Interlude 3, Return of the Vex, and now we've gone to Act 7, and that is Oryx, the Taken King. So we completed Shrine of Oryx, we completed the Coming Warcade Stash, the Dreadnought, and then yesterday the Sunless Cell. So the next mission is going to be Enemy of My Enemy, then we'll have Lost to Light, then after that the Promethean, then the Last Rites, and we'll end with Regicide. Regicide is the final story mission in which we are eliminating this dreadful beast, the Taken King, namely Oryx, and that will be then it for the first section of the DLC, and after that we'll progress to the Taken War. So nothing outside of this equation we are going to be doing, because obviously what I want to do is to get to the bottom of it. We're going to come to the end of Act 10, Rise of Iron, and end it with Sepix Perfected, because on my setup I can't be doing the raids successfully due to my internet connection. And in fact I got a message from my ISP 2 days ago, or yesterday, in view of my request recently, where I have been asking them to provide me with some clarity on fiber optic connection, and they said that due to unforeseen difficulties experienced by one engineer, they're not going to be connecting cables from my local street exchange to the property. So now I want to be emailing them and asking for an explanation, because I have been told otherwise, and they're coming up with all kinds of excuses. And most annoyingly, the cabinet has a sticker saying fiber optic available in your local area, so call us in order to make your connections possible. So when you call them and you request it, you get the answer, no, it's not available. Well, it is available in your area, it's not available to your property. And if I was living in a remote spot far away from everything and not in the town centre, I'd say fair enough, but it's just mind-boggling. We have several offices and several nursing homes literally next to us. So it's a very well-populated area that indeed would benefit a fibre optic in terms of the business that is run at these facilities and obviously everyone else. And I'm not sure what the issue is, but I'll have to investigate that further. Try to repressurize them on the whole thing. They said that there's a possibility that a new system that they will be introducing in autumn will be instantly accessible. They'll be taking orders from October. So, but it seems to be like a lengthy wait yet again. And for anyone who's a broadcaster, you will know full well that you need to have the best possible picture quality, because a lot of people get put off by 360 displays and lag and all other issues that happen. And you know, anyone who isn't a broadcaster will not be familiar with the ins and outs of the tech, and they require the fastest possible speeds, and they require the fastest possible processors as well. And if you're combining the gameplay together with your own video, with your cam, then it is even more taxing for the system. So that's not the case here. I do not run my broadcasts with my visuals, but still the games are very, very taxing for the system, particularly the new ones with high resolution graphics. They require a lot of bandwidth, and I think most of all the ones that I played a lot here that are PvP multiplayers, because of the obvious, you're connected to the server, and you know, there's all other kinds of reasons as to why that is. So I'm still sentenced to waiting. So let me see what our friend says. Orlando is asking about Kreuter. We had completed this previously, and this was on the moon. We'll revisit it in the future, and maybe sometimes we'll do some strikes as well, you know, like Sivas and that. But at the moment, I want to have that degree of continuity with our story missions, because all of that is linked to the arrival of new chapters in September to Destiny, and we want to be fully prepared for that. We've done that already a couple of times in the past. Once before we've had Shadowkeep, and the other time we had it just as a kind of entertaining run for our community. Our community here has become somewhat quiet, or quieter than usual, and that is in view of many people migrating to the sequel and to Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Apex and PUBG. And therefore we didn't have as many interactions in recent weeks, or months I should say. The number of broadcasters and streamers as well as viewers on Twitch had been depleted. There aren't that many people doing Destiny 1, and I'm quite curious to see whether it will expand after the game migrates to the sequel, because it's possible that some people will prefer the original game in its original format, and I want to see whether Bungie will be keeping the game on the servers in its present shape, because don't forget, this is a multiplayer that is entirely dependent on the server connection. You cannot play Destiny if you do not have a server connection, and they were talking about shelving the content and various other things. So I'm quite curious to see whether once the story missions are migrated, whether they'll keep everything as it is, or whether they will be cutting down on the DLC, on the PvP content, you know, the Crucible in particular, or the strikes, because the strikes will be present then in the original and the sequel. They'll be doubling up on the content on the server. I don't really know. We need to wait and see. Maybe they'll invent and introduce something new. That's not been said yet. We are going to see all of that with ease as we carry on, as we come to 22nd of September. So what are people doing on this wonderful sunny Sunday morning in your local area? Unlike ours, where it's a bit drizzly. I can see some sunshine now poking through the clouds, and in fact I need to open my window a bit because I want to have a bit of sunshine if at all possible. There we are, a bit of it. It's been very drizzly when I woke up, and still very wet outside by the looks of it on the ground. Yeah, so what games are you guys playing at the moment? Are you perhaps doing the big blockbuster that's been released on Friday, The Last of Us 2, the sequel, one of the most hotly anticipated games for many, many months and years? I'm doing the original. I'm revisiting the first game, and I'm doing it on the best remastered edition that was given to us by Sony last year for free. and I'm doing it for the first time on the new polished up version of the game. It looks absolutely wonderful, I have to say, much superior to the original, and also the sound quality is second to none. So it's very eerie, very creepy, very testing if you're doing it on the high difficulty levels, and you will experience the terror, the suspense and the fear as seen by Joel and Ellie in the story. So definitely very, very good, definitely 10 out of 10. And for anyone who perhaps is not that keen on survival games, Naughty Dog are well known for their storytelling, and they have a particular model for which you get to know about the story. You don't actually talk to characters, they talk amongst each other as you progress, and therefore they're similar to the usual model of adventure games, the point and click type of games, but that's while incorporating the battle sequences, the stealth, the use of inventory and weapons, and you become really fully immersed in all that is happening out there. In fact, it's very interesting because this is a bit like a merger of the Uncharted with Resident Evil, you know, with zombies and various other kind of infested creatures in there. It's a really terrifying story, but also very, very highly emotionally charged. So everyone expected miracles from the sequel, and there's been a lot of publicity and a lot of advertising about the game for a little while. And yesterday I discovered that there have been so many reviews that were basically giving it thumbs down, like negative reviews of the game on the internet, and very many of those were on Metacritic, you know. So I'm really surprised to hear that so many people were giving it negative reviews. So I think that the overall ranking was below 3. So the question is, what is the reason for that? Because the game indeed was given very, very good response from the video gaming industry community. You know, the online hubs and reviewers were giving it 10 out of 10. Push Square, IGN, Games Radar, the big, you know, the big hubs, they were all very, very excited and enthralled by the activity. So what's happening? What is the reason for that? Researched it a bit and discovered that it's all to do with the rumors that were persisting on the internet. Many rumors were circulating about the actual story, about the outcome, about the relationships, about how the game was to be progressing. And just like anything online, many people who were dedicated to that community soaked up all the information that was there, none of it, of course, true to fact. And they had anticipation and expectations that really were absolutely off mark. So once they got the game, they discovered that the developer had a completely different vision that did not match the rumors, and therefore they considered it to be a fluke, i.e. it didn't live up to the expectations, because they assumed that the rumors were actually coming out to the developers. They thought this is what the director and the team were saying at the time, that indeed is going to be happening in the game. It's just completely wrong. It's ridiculous even to consider that you would be believing such rumors, because I keep saying to everyone, if you're hearing about the new console coming out, like PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox Project X, what you want to do is you want to get the updates from the company that's making the console. You do not want to rely on stories that are circulating on the internet. For obvious reason, they're completely untrue. Give an example, Destiny. We've had loads of rumors for quite some time prior to the recent vidocs and announcements from Bungie, telling us exactly what the story for Destiny 3 is going to be. Destiny 3 is not even on the cards. Destiny 2, within its present concept, is going to be the only game that will carry on with the Destiny universe. We'll have a trilogy incorporated within that present model and its storyline structure. We are not going to have, for many years ahead, anything even mentioned, let alone done, about Destiny 3. It's possible that we'll have it created in due course, but by the way it looks at the moment, all of it is going to be incorporated in the present Destiny 2 structure, which is of a completely ever-evolving world. So why on earth would you want to tell the world that you know all about the story that the project that's not even conceived is going to be having? It's just beyond ludicrous. It's crazy. Yet people bought into this, and I've seen loads of postings on Reddit and elsewhere. People saying we're really excited to see that Kate's coming back and all that sort of thing. We don't know, because the game's not even been conceived. Nobody's talking about Destiny 3. Destiny 2 is as it is, and you've heard last week, or was it the week before last, that we are going to have this integration of our Destiny universe. Destiny 1 is going to be coming to Destiny New Light, and all the story missions and strikes will be part and parcel of the RPG content. So what's the idea? So I'm very saddened to see that the experience of the game, The Last of Us 2, the sequel, has been tarnished by those kind of silly rumours and unworthy expectations, and I wish that people would not do that sort of thing, and particularly avoid reading nonsensical comments and views which are basically pulled out of a hat. It's not just to the developer, it must be very disappointing. And we've seen that everyone in the industry was very, very happy with the product and how they delivered it. We've had some teaming up of other companies, like for instance the developer behind God of War, that was providing us with some wonderful screenshots of their characters, kind of joining forces with Ellie and Joel. I'm sure you've seen them on Twitter. So all of these looked really wonderful, and just felt like a really properly united and very, very supportive developer community out there. So very sad to see that people are venting out their frustration, which I believe is based on those rumors, because you can't be really expecting for the developer to be zooming in on any kind of invention or any type of story that is being thrown in through those online hubs. It's just not, it's simply not possible. And I guess people also expect a lot after seeing the trailers indicating that Ellie will have a particular type of relationship with a new character, and there have been some indications in there that lots of fans were not happy with the way this was run. Well, fair enough, but the game is going to carry on. We'll have possibly some expansions. If not, we'll have other additions to the game in the future where such parts of the story may well unravel. The story may not be always to everyone's taste. Let's face the facts. Right, so that's all about the biggest release of the month and of the year. One of the latest, I should say one of the last big blockbusters to be released on PlayStation 4. Very likely to have its own PlayStation 5 re-release as well once the console comes out, perhaps in a polished up edition or with some other additional content. We'll see. Surprised to see that they didn't wait for the new console, but as you know, the developers have their own schedules and deadlines, and obviously production costs and expectations, and therefore they have to live up to their kind of investors' hype. And this game is certainly delivering on the financial front. Many people bought it. It's, as you know, Sony PlayStation exclusive, and quite expensive, I've got to say. I've seen 2 editions, one is 60, the other one £90 or £85, and very rarely do I actually invest that revenue in a brand new game. But I'll still wait a little while until the prices come down, and then obviously I'll engage with it. Presently I'm enjoying its original, and that's the Last of Us 1 Remastered Edition. In fact, before going to bed last night, I played about 45 minutes of it, and I just always absolutely enjoyed. I'm in awe of the remastered version because it is very immersive, very eerie, and if you have a very high quality setup, you'll be able to enjoy the atmosphere in full. But I recommend it to everyone to play before going to bed, because some parts are really very scary. But if you if you like suspense, if you like the kind of stealth activity, like myself, then that is going to be thoroughly exciting and mostly very enjoyable. Right, so what are we going to do today? Well, I said earlier to our friend Orlando that we are progressing down the route of our story missions replay here in Destiny 1. Completed all these chapters. We've gone halfway through the Taken King expansion, and that is exactly what we'll do today. So let me just have a look what the first mission of the day is going to be. So we completed the Sunless Cell, and Enemy of My Enemy, which is on Dreadnought, is the first mission of today. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll simply go to the tower, do a bit of admin, and then we'll crack on with our first mission of the day. Keep in mind that our broadcasts on Sunday are somewhat shorter. We'll end at 1300 hours today. And that is always like that within my current schedule. Sundays are shorter, sweeter, and packed with lots of activity. And there we are, departing for the base. What we always need to do in Destiny 1 is to do our admin. That means we need to sort, we need to do some decoding. After we complete all of this, we need to go to the postmaster to pick up anything that's been left in the field, and then we go and pick up some bounties. If you complete your character to the 4400 level, rarely will you have the need to talk to one of the NPCs, but sometimes you will be allocated new tasks, and then obviously you have to talk to them as well in order to commence. So first of all, we'll go to our friend Master Rahul here. Do a bit of decoding.
The Slayer of Oryx, then?
Slayer of Oryx, indeed. Yes. And there are several, as you can see. So we have loads of blue weapons. None of those will be of any use to us. We'll just erase them straight away. But I keep doing this always, regardless, because sometimes, even with those blue emblems, you'll get an exotic or legendary weapon. So it is very important that we engage with all of those activities. Okay, so all of those blue weapons are of no use to us, and we'll just get rid of them all. Oh, we've got even 2 of those husks. 350. Don't we need this husk? Okay. And there we are. So that's all been completed. We'll go and look at whatever our friend has here.
Disruption resolved. Check, check, check.
Okay, so that's all sorted. And then we'll go up here and pick up some bounties. Actually, I need to see whether we completed some of those bounties yesterday. We did one, so we can just pick up one of them. Oh, strange coin. That's pretty good. And we'll pick up exploding like grenade kills, heavy kills, killing sprees, fallen defeated. We can take that on. Okay. Okay, so that's all in order. Somebody else? Looks like he wants to talk to us. Why?
You look like someone.
Another engram. Spectral dust we picked up. Okay, so that's all sorted out and we are ready to crack on. Okay, so we'll have a look at the view, and enemy is my enemy is going to be our next mission. So let's just have a pause, let's have an afterthought, let's think of the loved ones, all the places we like the best before we depart for another battle. I'll have a short break, and after that we'll carry on with our first mission, which is going to be the story mission called Enemy is My Enemy, and that mission is basically part of the Taken King expansion. So get ready for more action very, very shortly.